Hey everyone, welcome to Wednesday Stash, where I share ways to help you keep your food for longer. So today we are going to talk about sweet spreads. Um, Very popular, but there might be some interesting things that you didn't know about sweet spreads. So basically, what is a sweet spread? Um, it has simple ingredients. You think about your jams, jelly, marmalade, butter, conserves, preserves. We're going to go over, okay, what are all those things? But they're basically made of three things. So, of course, you have fruit. In this case, I have some beautiful nectarines that I picked up, but unfortunately, I allowed them to get a little bit too ripe to make a sweet spread. So these are great for eating right now. I'm going to get some more fruit, and when you're making a sweet spread, the fruit ingredient is going to be just ripe and some slightly underripe or immature fruit. Especially if you're trying to, there's going to be more pectin in certain fruits if it's slightly underripe than when it's just ripe. But you want firm fruit. Once it's become really mature and you think about eating stage where it's perfect for eating fresh in hand, that's a little bit too mature for a sweet spread. So get just ripe fruit and use a little bit of slightly underripe fruit. If you're going for pectin. And if you're curious about the whole pectin question, because that's another thing I have here, that's another ingredient. Most fruit has pectin, but it may not have enough pectin for a gel to form, because a gel is formed from the fruit, from not trying to advertise, I gotta put labels on stuff. Sugar, so I have some sugar here, and pectin that's in the fruit, the acidity, the acid that's already in the fruit, those three in the right combination forms a gel. Now, if your fruit is low in pectin, there are things that you can do. You can combine it with other fruits that are higher in pectin, or you can buy pectin. So this is liquid pectin. It comes in pouches. I do not have any powdered pectin. I've used all of my powdered pectin, so I have to go get some more. But with your powdered pectin lasts longer than this. So there's like a little date on the back. Go by the date on the back of the liquid pectin. But like I said, if you're interested in finding out all about pectins, if you look at last week before last Wednesday Stash, talk about pectins there. What is it? What does it do? How do you test to see if your fruit has enough pectin in it? That type of thing. So you can take a look there. So, sweet spreads. Like I said, jams, jelly, marmalade, preserves, conserves, butter. Have you been calling them all jelly? Are they just all jelly? Well, I'm going to let you know and show you. So I'm going to tilt my camera down a little bit so you can take a look at this. And we're going to start off with jelly. So this is a nice pear jelly. I'm so proud of this jelly. Jelly's made up of cooked juice and sugar, and if you need pectin or not. This is a pear jelly. I did have to add pectin. I didn't have enough pectin in my the pears didn't have enough pectin for that, so I had to add some. But jelly is going to be clear. So when you're making the jelly, if you're making your own juice, you can use commercial juice. You can buy the juice to make it, or you can make your jelly, or you can use commercial juice. If you make your own juice, you're going to strain it, but when you strain it, make sure you don't squeeze that bag, because solids will be forced out, and there should be no solids in your jelly. It should come out nice and clear. And I'm going to try to open this with my, yeah, it opened up nice. And with jelly, I'm going to put it in here, and you see it should have a nice consistency. It should be tender. This is a really nice tender jelly. But if you notice, when you cut it with a knife, or you see I'm cutting it with the spoon, it's still going to have those edges. So I'll put the camera on it and you can see it's kept its shape. That's a nice jelly. Jellies should be tender, they should be clear, they should have the flavor of the fruit. When you taste it, it should taste overly sweet like just sugar. All you taste is sugar. This is a pear jelly. It should taste like pears. So that is a jelly. But this was my first time making pear jelly and super excited. It came out really, really well. So I'm gonna put that to the side. And the next one is jam. Now, jam is made from crushed, ground, or mashed fruit, and it's cooked to a smooth consistency. So I have a couple of jams here. So this one's a strawberry jam that I like. That this came out really well, and strawberry jam is a nice one to start with because you can do freezer jam. And you don't have to worry about canning it. We're going to talk about canning later. But if you look at it, it's cooked to a nice consistency. We have a gel, but the fruit, for this, I mashed the strawberries, so the fruit is spread all through this. And it's going to have a nice, smooth consistency. So that's a jam. Jelly is just made with juice. Jam is made with crushed fruit and sugar. And it pectin. This one I did add pectin too as well. It needed some pectin. I did want to point out that with this one I just opened because I had processed this, I opened my container and the jar. This you can only use one time. Your bands, that's where my bands are gone because as soon as I finish canning and everything's processed, take my bands off, wash them and put them away. And when I open it, I'm going to go ahead and throw this away so I don't make a mistake, because actually it looks like it's really in good condition and you might be tempted to use it again, but these are one-shot deals. So you use your lids one time, you can use your bands over and over again. So that's where I have these really neat canning lids, because once I've opened, this is not for processing, this is just for food storage in the refrigerator, and I like it because you can just put the lid on and I'm not using my bands. I'm not having to hold on to my lids, no confusion on, have I already used this lid before, it looks good, what have you. These are really nice storage lids, so I got a bunch of these. All right, so we're gonna move on. We spoke about spoke about jam. Now preserves. Preserves are small pieces of, you can use whole fruit, but they're going to be small whole fruit, or you're going to cut the fruit into small pieces. And this is, the fruit is in a nice, it's a nice mixture. When you have nice preserves, they're suspended in a nice gelled syrup. Okay, because I'm going to show you a syrup also. But for this one, let's see. Oh, I've got some peach preserves here. And I'm going to spoon those out. And so for this, you wouldn't wear this. I would want more gel with this one, but these are nice. These are nice preserves, and I'll let you take a look at these. And like if I were doing peaches, you know, pickled peaches, yeah, you would have whole peaches, but these are preserved, so for these, I use sliced peaches to make this. But my gel, these were in the refrigerator, and I had a good gel when I first made them, but I don't know if refrigerating, my gel separated a little bit. I took them out, and they've been sitting here. But very tasty. Of course, the same thing. It should taste like the fresh fruit flavor to it, not just sweet. You shouldn't taste just sugar sweet, okay? Let's see, this is a preserve. Let me see which one this is. Oh, this is another jam. This is a blueberry jam, and I wanted to show you. This one has crushed blueberries in it, you know. So another good one. You could tell with this one, it has more pieces of fruit, whereas the strawberry, it cooked down. It broke down a lot more than the strawberry jam broke down more than the blueberry jam. And then keep in mind, Thanksgiving is coming, and for those who make their own cranberry sauce is sort of like, it's a type of jam. you know, and you might not look at it that way. You look at it as something that, you know, you're going to serve along with your Thanksgiving dinner. But the consistency, if you think about the consistency of cranberry sauce, that's going to be, you're going to have a nice jam. Okay? So then next, we have conserves. Now, I was going to make conserves out of these nectarines, but I let them get too ripe, and right now they're good for eating. They're not good for conserve making. But it's going to be, conserves are going to be a nice jam. So you think about, you have, like, say maybe this strawberry jam, but with pieces of, there might be citrus in there, in here. There might be nuts, fruit, dried fruit. That's what's going to be in a conserve. All right, so you think conserves are a jam with nuts and dried fruit, or citrus is just a really, really popular one. And then speaking of citrus, marmalades. Now, marmalades are really nice as well. And I made a marmalade. Somebody asked if I was going to tell the story about my marmalade. Okay, so the first time I ever made marmalade was in 2001. So it's been 19 years since I made it. And I did it in South America. I was at a much higher altitude, and when you're at higher altitude, you have to process, you know, you have to cook things. Things boil at a lower temperature. So we were trying to make this marmalade, and we're boiling it, trying to prepare it, get it, you know, cook it, and it seized up, completely seized up. I was so upset. You know, I was working with female farmers, and everybody has citrus. You know, everybody had citrus. So we were trying to do where, okay, instead of selling your fruit at the market like everybody else, they were going to sell, you know, value added. They were going to serve marmalade instead. So we went through all of this. It seized up. It turned to basically candy in the pot because we were cooking for so long to make the adjustment to try to get it to the right consistency, to get that gel. And then it's like it flashed, it seized up, and I thought it was ruined. The ladies who I was working with, they did not think it was ruined at all. They rolled it up into balls, they wrapped it in plastic, and they went to the market, and it sold all out. They sold every bit of it. So I thought, okay, I haven't made marmalade in 19 years. I'm going to try making marmalade again. And if you will notice, I will tell you, marmalade should look like. Marmalade is made up of a tender jelly. So I showed you what jelly looks like. Okay, nice and soft. And then that jelly would have bits of the fruit, usually citrus, suspended through this jelly. If you notice with this is delicious. It's tasty, all of that. This is not tender. So I'm not going to wait 19 years to revisit my marmalade making. I'm going to get this right. I'm going to work on this one. But I cooked it, basically I cooked it too long. And that's what happened. So when you're making a marmalade, you're looking for a jelly consistency, nice tender jelly with the bits of citrus suspended all through suspended through the jelly. So that's a marmalade. Okay. And butters. Now I thought I had we had pear butter, apple butter, but I have adult children who shop my cabinets. I don't know if there's any other parents who are out there where, you know, you're empty nester, they're all gone, but when they come to visit, they get food. Mine do. So I had apple butter in there. I was positive I had pear butter. I've got all of my other preserves, my other sweet spreads. I can't find any of my butters. So with butters, basically it's cooked fruit. It's going to be fruit cooked in sugar. Okay, so it's not going to have the gel consistency like, you know, any of the others that I spoke about, like your jams or your jellies or anything. But it's pureed fruit and sugar cooked, but when you mound it when you scoop it with a spoon, it should form a mound. Now, some butters are, you can can them. You know, there's apple butters. Yes, they can be canned. There are other butters, fruit purees you might want to make, and there aren't any tested recipes for them because um, they shouldn't be preserved to go into the cabinet, but they're fine to make. You just store them in the refrigerator. So if you can't find a tested recipe for a particular quote unquote fruit butter, I see one that's really popular. I think called I think it's monkey jam or something is made with bananas, and because of the consistency of bananas, it's not safe to process and put into the cabinet. You know, there aren't any tested recipes for it, but it looks really, really good. Make it, just keep it in the fridge. Don't try to store it in the cabinet. So talking about storage, now you might be intrigued with making any of these sweet spreads, and you can make any of them, and you don't have to process them if you're going to keep them in the refrigerator. Often you might have recipes where you might get 4 pints, or you might get 2 pints, or if you're doing it in half pint, containers like this, you might get 4, you might get 6, depending. So it's not a lot. It's not going to take up a lot of space. But if you do want to can them, you want to make sure you're using a tested recipe, and you don't want to do what's called open kettle. So basically, you're going to make your sweet spread. Say it's your jelly. You've boiled your juice, your sugar and your juice together, and you're forming your gel. Everything is ready to go. You pour it into your canning jars, and then you just put the lid on. I got to get the right side. You just put the lid and the band on. You cap it and you let it seal itself, and you might hear your jars pop and all of that. Well, what's happening is when you don't can it, you're leaving it very vulnerable. You're setting up really nice conditions for yeast and mold, because the pH of the jam, or the sweet spread, the fruit, it keeps it low enough to protect you from food bacteria that causes foodborne illness, because the pH is controlling for that. But molds and yeast, they don't mind the higher acid conditions of a jam or jelly, and they'll grow just fine. So if you want to make them shelf stable, go ahead, follow your tested recipe, fill up your jars, cap them, but then you want to boiling water process them. And it's pretty simple. There are a lot of recipes, 10 minutes if you're only going to process there's some that are jams and jellies 5 minutes, because that's what you're doing. You're just trying to control the any potential for yeast or mold growth. So 5 minutes in boiling water, that will work, but you have to sterilize your jars first. So any recipe that you have that's less than 10 minutes, then you have to sterilize your jars. Or you can process for 10 minutes. To me, that makes more sense, because, to sterilize your jars, it's going to take 10 minutes in order to sterilize the jar, and then you're going to process it for another 5 minutes. Or you can have nice, clean, they need to be washed, rinsed, they're clean jars, clean lids, clean bands, everything. You fill your jars, and then you process for 10 minutes. So I just always go by processing for 10 minutes. But you want to follow that recipe. Now, any pot can serve as a boiling water canner. So you can have a traditional boiling water canner, like this. And actually, to tell you the truth, this is not a boiling water canner. It looks just like one, but you'll notice it's a little bit smaller. This is actually a tamale pot. I like it because, it has the lid. Canners have to have a lid. It has a rack. You need to have a rack, and I'll speak to you more about that. It has the rack, but this takes up less of a footprint on my stove. So it's not as big as, the other canners are bigger. So if it's bigger, you can put more jars in it. But the way my stove is designed, this fits better on the burner, on the back burner, where I like to process in the back burner, so I can have the front burners if I need to keep water, if I need, there just might be things that I need, instead of having to I can't utilize that back burner the way I want to. This, I can do it. It takes up less space. Or you could just use a regular canner, okay? But like I said, a regular pot will do the same thing. Now, you just have to make sure there's 3 conditions for your pot. First, you need a pot that's deep enough that your jars can go into the pot and they will always be covered by 1 to 2 inches of water through the entire processing time. But not only do the jars go into the pot, because you don't put jars directly into the pot so that it's in contact with the bottom of that pot, you need a rack. So if you have a rack for your pot and your jar goes on that rack and you still have 1 to 2 inches of water above the jar and you have a lid, that works great for a boiling water canner as well. Okay? The reason that you want to have a rack in there is because you want water to circulate completely below, around, over the jar. That's part of the canning process, that the water can circulate freely around the jar so that you can make sure that the core of the jar is reaching the correct temperature. The other thing is like some people, they might put a towel at the bottom of the jar, to keep the jars off the bottom. Well, that's going to keep the jars off the bottom and keep them from potentially breaking, but that's not going to allow for free circulation of water. The other thing is you always can with the lid on. Tested recipes are set. There's a slight difference in atmospheric pressure with the lid on, and that's what tested recipes go by. That amount of time that you're going to use, it's going to be with the lid on. So make sure, like if you just have a nice deep pot, make sure you have a rack and a lid that serves as a can. Okay? Some just little things that I wanted to talk to you about was your proper ratio. When I spoke about the pectin, that's where it's going to, that's how you're going to get a gel. And I can show you what happens. I'm looking for my jar, and I thought I had it out here. Let's see, where'd it go? I need to go and get one because I want to show you what happens if, oh, that's what I did. I hid it from myself. That was embarrassing. This is what happens when, I'll let you see this. If you do not have the right ratio of sugar, fruit, sugar, and pectin, if necessary, instead of getting a gel, what you will get is, ta-da, a syrup. So you see I have the fruit there, lovely, beautiful blueberries, but that did not gel, folks. Okay, now, is it a complete loss? No. You can use this. I've been using, I have a few jars of my blueberries that didn't gel. I use them to flavor yogurt. That's what I've been using it. Just buying plain yogurt, and I use a couple of tablespoons of that just to flavor the yogurt. Or you can repurpose. If it failed to set, there are directions for adding pectin and redoing it so that you can form a gel. So it's not a total loss. It's not a total failure either way. You can either keep it as a syrup and you can use it for other purposes, or you can go ahead and rework it and make it right. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. Okay, I did not want to leave out, for those who are brand new to canning jams and jellies, making sweet spreads, and this is something you've never done before, but you want to stick your foot in there and see if you can do this. There are freezer jams, freezer jams. You can either keep in the refrigerator or you can keep them in the freezer. Really easy. They're wonderful. You don't have to worry about processing them for shelf stability. They're delicious. They come out really good, and it's easy. So I would say try your hand at freezer jams. Yes, there's special pectin, for that. So you want to follow the directions. And some of them you have no cook. It's a no cook recipe. Basically you're mixing everything up and you've got jam. It's a sweet spread. Okay, so that's a nice one. There are other ones, like there are those who might not want to add all the sugar that's necessary in order to form a gel. So there are low and no sugar recipes for your low. There are low sugar uh, sweet spread recipes, but you have to use a special pectin, and you follow the directions, and you can them, but you need to follow the directions. And that basically they have a filler in it that's going to give you the consistency. It's not a true gel. It's going to they've added something to give you the consistency of a gel. Now for your no sugar recipes, if you're going to add something, it's usually gelatin for thickener. Those cannot be processed for shelf stability. They need to be kept in the refrigerator. But it might be where you just want to make a nice sweet spread and you just want to use the fruit. You don't want to add all of that sugar, but you want that thick, you want to be able to spread it on something. Well, the gelatin will give you a gel-like consistency. So those are some options as well. So I'm going to take a look through and see if there are any questions. And hi, Ashley. Let's see. And I don't see any questions in there. So I'm going to go now. And I look forward to seeing you next week on Wednesday Stash, where I share ways on how you can keep your food for longer. And that's it for now. So take care. Bye.